morning, everybody. We welcome you to this seminar of the ECES, naming the fourth dimensional roadmap to launch the technical or tablet system in Egypt. I would like to call upon Dr. Fikry Wahab to start the opening session and welcome the participants or the attendees. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's very interesting topic, the four-dimensional roadmap. I do not want to say that if we find out a two-dimensional roadmap to solve the TAVET in Egypt, this in itself is going to be an achievement. It's an important issue, and in my personal opinion, the industry is one of the sectors that have to be taken into consideration with respect to the Egyptian economy, and it's one of the most motors. And one of the biggest motors of the industrial sector is the labor and the trained labor, so that we can compete on the international level. Today, in this opening session, I have a group of of representatives of different sectors. I'm going to start from the right, Dr. Hossam Badrawi. He has contributed hugely to develop the educational sector, and he's one of the most well-known names in these fields, and he's the founder and the director of the board of directors. And Dr. Abla, of course, she's the executive director of the ECES. Representative of the UK, Dr. Julia Skorupska. She's a political and economic councillor at the British Embassy. And on behalf of the Minister of Manpower, Engineer Ayman Katamesh, he's the head of the Central Administration for Vocational Training. Dr. Tarek Shawki is going to join us via a video conference. We're going to take opening speeches from each of the panelists, and then Dr. Abdel is going to give us a presentation, and then we're going to continue to the end of the day. We're going to start with Dr. Hossam. You have the floor. Thank you for your kind invitation. And I always like to get back to the references and the studies. And one of them is Egypt Vision 2020. Why? Because I have noticed that we in Egypt, we do not have a sustainability and we do not have an accumulated expertise with respect to the topics that we tackle, which means that Egypt's Vision 2030 has to be governing all the government. And we cannot change any strategy without getting back to the vision. So in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the 5 pillars of the Egypt Vision 2030 with respect to the education that includes the technical education and the high education. Each one of these pillars has its own objectives, sub-objectives, or targets, and have as well indicators, KPIs, timelines, and responsibilities that supposedly each and every ministry is going to follow. And this with respect to the technical education. The first pillar is quality, availability, or accessibility, and non-discrimination. Quality, accessibility, and non-discrimination. The second pillar is governance of the management of the education system at the central level and non-central to the non-central level, so that the technical unit of any technical school is the key administrative unit. The third pillar is digitalization, because regardless of the fact that the community regards the technical labor as or underestimated in the future and in the present, the non-digitalized is going to be outside the competitive framework. So the technical schools have to consider this, including, for example, the public schools and the universities. The fourth pillar is that we might have good graduates, clever doctors, clever nurses, and clever technical laborers, but they hold weapons and kill each other. Because the fourth pillar has to do with co-living and coexisting within the educational framework, and how to deal with the other. Coexistence and building the personalities are not based on curriculum. They are based on a group of values that have to be clear and unified in all the schools and in all the educational institutions. And it does not have to be tackled separately, or they have to be tackled in cooperation with, of course, respecting beauty, art, and so on and so forth. The fifth pillar is the competitiveness capability, because our laborers do not work only in Egypt, but they work all over the world. Why I'm mentioning the 5 pillars, and I'm repeating that Egypt's Vision 2030, I have not seen a school or a factory or a technical school or a university that know this vision. And this makes me feel that we have spent 18 months to work on this vision without raising the awareness of any party on it. I'm getting back to this vision because by the end, we have based this vision on so many references, including the Ministry of Education strategy of 2018-2019. And the last thing that I would like to mention is that I have spent 20 years talking about the technical framework of competences and qualifications in Egypt. This law, I wish to have a law. We have up to now we do not have a law that mentions the competences and qualifications for each and every occupation, and this is not going to lead to the development of the sector. And I'm stopping here and giving you back the floor. Thank you, Dr. Hossam. And I wish that we do not spend more 20 years to talk about this without achieving anything. Dr. Julia, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the kind invitation. I'm honored to sit here with such an illustrious panel of other speakers. I'm here primarily to represent the ambassador and to say on his behalf how proud we are to have had an opportunity to contribute to this study. For us, this is one of the key areas that we want to focus on in Egypt and to think about supporting. I spend a lot of my time talking to British investors, to international rating agencies, to potential financial investors in Egypt. And I'm really struck by the fact that now the kind of first thing they say to me is how interested they are in the opportunities in Egypt, what a success they think the macroeconomic reform program has been. And we're really struck in the embassy about the impact that's had on the appetite for investment. So we now see that there's an increasing appetite from British investors to invest in all sectors beyond kind of oil and gas, our traditional home. But we're now seeing people who want to come here, who want to base manufacturing units here in order to export to Africa. So I think kind of it's a really positive base to be building from. But obviously we all know a huge challenge remains. A huge challenge remains to ensure that the millions of young Egyptians are able to access the jobs that they want, decent jobs, meaningful jobs, and have the skills to really flourish in those jobs. And so that's why our focus at the moment in the embassy, in our small way, is on supporting the second wave of reforms, which we think will help young Egyptians to access these jobs that they need. And we're doing that in a number of ways. So we're providing technical expertise to the government on reforms to the business environment, on reforming some of the legislation, the implementation, for example, on the bankruptcy law and the procurement law. We're also trying directly to support entrepreneurship in Egypt through our Start Egypt program, but also through using UK's financial expertise to address some of the problems of access to finance for small and medium businesses in Egypt. But most of all, I think our biggest priority here is supporting education reform. It's a huge priority for our current Prime Minister. Since he came to power, he's spoken to President Sisi 4 times, and each time they've spoken about the importance of cooperation between Britain and the UK on education. I think I've now had 3 or 4 requests from number 10 telling me that the boss wants to know what we're doing on education and skills in Egypt. We write back to them and they say, well, good, but what now? What else? Where else can we support? So we're delighted to have the opportunity to be here today. We have a big team from the embassy here today, keen to hear ideas as to how we can build on this cooperation and work more in this area, which is obviously really crucial for the future of Egypt, the future of Egypt's youth. So once again, we're delighted to have had the opportunity to support this study, and we hope that it's just the start of a partnership in this area.
أشكرك شكرا جزيلا على هذا الدعم. أشكرك على هذا التعاون، وأنا بأمانة أتمنى أن نرى المزيد من الاستثمارات البريطانية في قطاع التصنيع أيضا، لأننا نحتاج هذه المساهمة في الاقتصاد المصري مرة أخرى. شكرا لك الأستاذ أيمن قطامش، وزارة القوى العامة. Mr. Ayman Katamesh, Ministry of Manpower. Good morning. At the outset, of course, I would like to convey you the apology of the Minister of Manpower because he has other commitment and he couldn't make it to this meeting, and he wish you a successful and a fruitful day. It's an honor for me, of course, to be amid these panelists. And I'm going to talk about 2 points. The first point, the technical education, in my opinion, is heading towards a very positive destination because we are improving the technical training within companies, or the in-company training, and the training and building capacities of the staff of the schools. The second thing, the Ministry of Manpower possesses 54 training centers, including 38 training centers that are fixed and 13 mobile training centers that lately are representing a support to the governorates that need training in Egypt. Because we have found out that the unemployment rate within the women and within the poor villages is very high. So we started to reach out to the small villages and to women through these mobile centers, mobile training centers. We have 4 vehicles in Wadi Jadid and in Daqahliya and Fayoum. And the first training course ended on the 31st of October. And for the first time, we trained people without paying them anything. Because, as you know, we sometimes give them an allowance, transportation. We pay them for the transportation, but this was the first time the trainees were able to rely on themselves financially. And on Monday, we are going to give them the awards for the first 3 rankers on the level of the 4 governorates in which the training was conducted. Thank you so much. We are currently going to listen to Dr. Tarek Shawki's speech. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I'm very glad to welcome you, of course, and I would like to thank the ECES for its invitation to participate with you, especially, of course, my dear colleague, Dr. Abla Latif. She's my colleague in the consultant committee and councils. And unfortunately, all the team of the technical education is in Germany. That's why I wanted to share with you a recorded speech. Of course, the research topic and the research and the four-dimensional roadmap to develop the TVET system in Egypt. This is a very important, of course, topic, and thank you for the center to assume this responsibility, and we're looking forward to the results. I would like to share with you the fact that we are already exerting lots of efforts in that field in Egypt, and I think that there is a huge paradigm shift with respect to people accepting the technical education or improving the social perspective or perception of the technical education, what we call the rebranding of the technical education. We work on so many pillars to satisfy the needs of the current and future labor market of Egypt. We work on the applied technical schools or applied technology schools, and this is a partnership between the government and between the industry and between the different accreditation centers and institutions. The most important thing is that we have found out the interest of the students, of the Egyptian students in this project, because we have modified the admission processes of the students in cooperation, of course, with the parents, and we have partnerships with Suwidi, Salahia, IBM, Egypt Gold companies, big partners, and all of them are important, and we are going to construct like 100 schools in the future of the ECES, the applied technology schools, in addition to cooperation of the GIZ, the cooperation, the German cooperation agency, in addition to Japanese partners and Italian partners as well. But the Germans are the key partners for us. And the agreements with the German side includes, of course, a support to have an academy for the graduates and a quality entity to guarantee the quality of the education, of the technical education. My colleague, Dr. Mohammed Megahed, as well, is in Germany. He's not going to be able to attend with you the session. He works on a competency framework to be unified in all the technical education schools. There are almost 2,000 schools, in addition to the training for the teachers. And we have surveyed the current labor market needs in Egypt and the future ones as well. And we are thinking about satisfying the needs not only of the current labor market in Egypt, but outside Egypt as well. We have studied the labor market needs in Germany and in other countries that have illegal migration, so that we help those migrants to contribute to the improvement of the economy of these countries. Also, we need to train our laborers so that we can benefit from them and send them abroad. And when they come back to us, they are going to have a know-how to support the Egyptian economy and the labor market in Egypt. By the end, we are so glad about this research that's conducted by the ECES, and at the same time, in the last 2 years, we have witnessed so many efforts in that field. So I hope that this study, in addition to these efforts, we have a brilliant future for the country, and thank you so much. I have a question. Now we are going to listen to Dr. Abla. But before that, I just want to say that for so many years, I have been thinking about who is the sponsor of the technical education in Egypt. Is it the Ministry of Industry, the Industrial Training Center, the Ministry of Manpower, the Ministry of Education? Who exactly? And this sponsorship moves from one place to another. So maybe you can answer this question or this concern. Dr. Hossam took the mic, but I don't know what he has in mind. I just want to remind you with the fact that that there was a program in Egypt that included all the occupations, and all the occupations were included, and for each and every occupation had a board including representatives of the Ministry of Education, the private sector, and the competent ministry. And we cannot and we cannot consider all the occupations as one, because each one has to do with a sector and has its own specs. I'm saying this because, once again, the sustainability and accumulated expertise is the base. And we took a British model and we studied it, and we took the board idea that to be like the umbrella for each and every occupation. The Ministry of Education is a part of the process and it's not the whole of the process. And that's why these specialized boards for each and every occupation, I think they were like 1,300 occupations. Where are they now? This is my own question. I would like to emphasize that the technical education is affiliated to the Ministry of Education, but with respect to the vocational training centers at the level of the Republic are the responsibility of the Ministry of Manpower. And we have like 875 centers at the level of all the ministries. And the latest statistics showed that we had 120,000 graduates or trainees from these centers. So without education, without training, we're not going to develop the occupations. At the outset, I would like to apologize for my voice because I have a flu. So I'm sorry for that you have to listen to this voice. I would like to introduce Dr. Muhammad Fikry Abdel Wahab. He is a member of the board of directors of the center and a member of the board of directors of the FEI and the engineering chamber, and he's the expert of the choirs in Egypt. So answering your question first, and then I'm going to give you the presentation. Who is responsible? We have so many fathers, so many mothers, and this is the problem. The scattered responsibilities is the problem, and the overlapping of roles is another problem. This is a big problem. And thus, this is the key reason of the problem. And it's very clear. Of course, we have serious efforts exerted, but the efforts are not enough, in my opinion. And as long as people, you have said that we have done this, but where is it now? Yes, we have done this. Water everywhere, but not a single drop of water to drink. This is a British saying that means that we have so many people, so many factories, but they do not have enough laborers. So that's why we're still facing this problem. And now I'm going to give you the presentation.
أنا عايزة أتكلم الحقيقة على 5 نقاط سريعة جدا. ليه إحنا بنعمل الدراسة دي؟ خصوصاً إن في دراسات.
I want to talk about 5 points quickly. Why we are conducting this study? So many people are talking about the technical education. So what are the objectives? What is the team or the working or the task force that works on this? Why we have conducted this study or this survey? We listen to so many things that the industry needs a training process, a very strong training process. It needs to be hugely improved. If we improve it, we are going to achieve quick and good results. We have open schools and we have achieved a lot. This is right and this is correct. But at the same time, this led to having so many conferences, so many events, and as we have said, and so many studies. But of course, these are beneficial, but these are not answering any question that has to do how to achieve a positive impact on the real ground. How, by making the industrial sector feels the impact of these efforts. We have identified the needs in Egypt and in Germany with respect to the labor market, of course. What are the needs of the factories? Are the needs the same in all the factories or not? Is there a difference between Upper Egypt and Delta and so on? What are the most important international models from which we can benefit without reinventing the wheel? Because we always like to invent the wheel in Egypt. We have already so many wheels from which we can benefit. So to answer these questions, the ECES has decided to conduct this survey to try to fill in the gap of the informative gap, that we cannot improve the TEVET system without this filling in this gap. You have mentioned the numbers of the number of the training centers, and you've give us a figure. And if you ask another entity, they are going to give you another figure. Everyone is saying a different thing. Everyone is working on an isolated island. The second reason for this survey, and that has to do with the methodology that we follow, is that the center wants to follow a different manner with respect to analysis, to be accurate, because to achieve recommendations on specific policies, we have to have details and accurate details. Most of the surveys are general. They give problems and general solutions, but we do not want general solutions, we want specific solutions. If you're talking about a problem, we have to know what is the sector that can solve this problem. So when you have so many problems, they have to be solved with specific solutions. And this is our trend in the center, to tackle the details and analyze them, to have special policies for them. We do not pretend that we answer all the questions, of course, but we just contribute to filling in the gap of the informative gap. And we support, of course, all the government institutions, and that's why the Minister of the Manpower and Dr. Tarek are with us today, because the target is to improve the education system correctly. Not only to achieve fruits for the industry sector, but to achieve paradigm shifts in the performance. We cannot afford walking slowly. We cannot afford this slowness. We have to take paradigm shifts, because the competitiveness between countries force this on us, so that Egypt can at least pertain the current competitiveness. The results of this survey, the objectives of this survey, we have general objectives and specific objectives to achieve what we call the policy justice principle. That policies have to be based on the real needs and not to be general policies, not to tackle all the situations with the same method, not to tackle all the sectors with the same method. Each one is different. Because this is, in our opinion, is going to help us to achieve the sustainable development that includes the competent economy and the just policies. We want to identify the future tendencies of the facilities in the manufacturers. And based on this, we have assessed the needs of these industrial institutions for the next 5 years, and what are the required occupations. And we do this for each and every industrial sector and each and every part of Egypt. So the details are so many. The second objective is to assess the current situation and with the best practices, and this is important to see what is the wheel that we are going to borrow and how we are going to benefit from it. And thus we have identified investment solutions that are required, reaching for, of course, the fourth dimensional roadmap to reform the system in a comprehensive manner. The methodology followed includes three things: a questionnaire or a survey on the industrial institutions for the next 5 years. We have a study on the current TVET system and analyze the experiences of Singapore, Germany, and Finland, and we compare the situation of Egypt with these experiences, and with transparency, of course, because I'm convinced with the fact that if we do not tackle the weak points, we are not going to improve them. And we have conducted meeting with experts from the TVET and from the industrial sector and from all the competent stakeholders, or from all the stakeholders. We have cooperated with the CAPMAS to conduct this questionnaire on 516 institutions from different sectors, from different specializations, and the sample was representing the whole industrial sector. The analysis conducted on the methodology was analysis on the questionnaire as a whole, and analysis on the size, and analysis with respect to the geographic distribution, and analysis on the sector. We identified what are the opportunities and challenges, the current opportunities and challenges, and thus we have now the policies and the roadmap. The field survey sample was divided into sectors and zones. And this is the distribution of the sectors, the different sectors covered: the chemical sector, the pharmaceutical sector, the mining sector, the leather, printing, ready-made clothes, textile, and engineering products. And the sample covered all these sectors. We have studied the system and we compared it with some systems from other countries like Germany, Finland, and Singapore. The criteria for selection of these countries, because they have good models of TVET that are regionally and internationally recognized, the TVET contributed to the paradigm shift in these in the economy of these countries, and to have a variety of experience. In each and every country, we are focused on 6 pillars: the legislative framework, the organizational, the funding, the information, the quality, and monitoring and evaluation dimensions. And according to these dimensions, we compared between the different countries, between Egypt and these 3 countries. The task forces, the task force of the survey, I'm so proud of this task force. We have a key task force: Dr. Sahar Abu, Dr. Rama Said. Please stand up. And assisting team, the statistical team, or the statisticians, Dr. Khalid Said and his colleagues. And Yasmin Shawarbi, she's an economist, and Dr. Amal Nuruddin, please stand up. In addition, of course, to the team of the center, because we always cooperate together, and this survey took 2 years, a year for the survey and a year for the analysis. So it took lots of efforts, and it deserved, and all the team members deserve a thank. And thank you, British Embassy, for contributing to this study. The first session is going to tackle the future needs and the current problems with respect to the industrial institutions or facilities. The second session is going to tackle the how far we are from the best practices, and are we achieving the Egyptian expectations with respect to the technical education and the vocational training. And the third session is to propose a fourth dimensional roadmap. So welcome everybody, and we are going to start the first session.
رباعية لأن البعد الأولاني والبعد المؤسسي. شوف صوتي يتصلح أول ما جبت سيرته.
Even my voice now sounds better after discussing these things. First, we have institutional dimension, we have size dimension, we have geographical dimension, and we have scale or sector dimension. That's why we called it a 4-dimension road map. So we need to classify and categorize things because we should be detail-oriented. And we should come up with the specific solutions. We need to focus on everything. First of all, I would like to thank you for conducting the survey or this study. Thank you for the great effort you exerted. I have not studied all the details, but I could tell that it's very impressive, and the effort you exerted is commendable, and this is in demand. We need that because in order for industrial sector to be able to compete, we need to study the present and the future, because things change in a very fast pace, because as you know, the fourth industrial revolution will change everything, and this might be positive if we can keep up with the pace of things changing. I would like to set an example. For example, telephones or mobile phones. 20 or 3 years ago, it was not accessible for everyone to have a mobile phone. Now everyone has one mobile phone, at least, if not more. So this might be a window of opportunity for us to keep up with the things, to change the conceptions, because we want to have a better perception. Like the public in Egypt has to have a better perception of workers, because people view workers in Egypt in a very derogatory or negative light, and we need to change that. Again, I would like to thank everyone who participated in this study, from the center, from the British Embassy, from Cap Mas, and all the esteemed experts who contributed to the study. Let's start session 1 right away.